Welcome to Ball State Today. Once again, it's our pleasure to invite you to relax and enjoy 30 minutes of fine Christmas music performed by outstanding members of the Ball State University School of Music.
Well, of course, it was fun learning about the kind of stories you tell around the Christmas tree and around the fireside at home. And there are many, many stories that are told along about Christmas time. Some of them we make up, and some we got from the New Testament, because this is the time of year when we celebrate that particular birth. All of us do recall, of course, how Mary and Joseph had to go to the city of Bethlehem to pay their taxes. And we remember also that there was also born a little baby in a manger. And we know that the three kings and the three very wise men from the east went to the manger to pay their respects. And we've even been told stories about how the animals went to the manger and how the shepherds from the fields went to the manger as well. Sometimes we forget about the story of what happened after that. And that's the story I would really like to tell this morning. Maybe we recall that along about this time there was a wicked king by the name of Herod. And this wicked king had learned that a new master had been born. And he didn't like this idea because he wanted always to be king of the land. And if he became so old that he couldn't be king, he wanted the right to appoint the next king. I like to imagine that somebody went to Joseph at this particular time and said, look, you'd better flee the country. You'd better run away very, very quickly. And I like to imagine that Joseph, being a proper father and really caring about Mary and the newborn baby, said, quickly now, we have to leave this town. We have to get away. And I like to think that maybe it was in the dark of night. And then very quickly they packed whatever meager possessions they really had in their home. And at that particular time, and in the dead of night, they took their little pack mule or donkey, loaded it up, and quite darkly now, they're going to move through the city streets. They stay close to the building. And we have to imagine they don't want light falling on their faces because they're making a quick getaway. When they got to the city gates, wouldn't that be a terrible moment? Because they could ask the gatekeeper, will this individual be friendly or will this be an enemy? Will this person be working for Herod or for us? And it must have been friendly, because I like to think that Mary and Joseph and their baby managed to get through the gates. And then from that point on, they're going to travel in hilly country that has some green plants in it for a little while. But finally, they're going to get to the desert. And when they got to the desert, then they know they have many, many misfortunes that could be ahead of them. The sun, for example, is going to be very intense when they're in the desert. And the sun could bake their skins and dry up all the water, or all of the foodstuffs they may have taken with them. And if they don't have the sun, they have to worry about the snakes and the lizards that would bite and sting them. And if they aren't worrying about these creepy, crawly little animals, they have to worry about the lion, and maybe the lion coming along to eat them. And if they aren't worried about the lion, they may have to worry about the jackals. And the jackal's a kind of dog-like animal that's really very fierce. And the jackals might follow them. And then they have the sun, the animals, the lizards, and they have also maybe the great birds that are going to fly around overhead, and they wonder about them. And if they manage to escape all of these, they have to worry about the desert robbers, because these too are rather fierce and angry people that rob and kill people out in the desert. Mary and Joseph and their baby have to realize, if they're going to flee Herod and go down into Egypt, that they're going to have to travel very carefully. They do most of their traveling in the dark because they realize it's safer that way. And in the daytime, they stay out of the hot sun and away from the animals by hiding among the rocks. But as they're going along, one evening, they are approached by a band of robbers. And the robbers will steal from anyone, and they will kill in order to steal. And these robbers on their fierce chargers came upon Mary and Joseph, and they attacked them and took them back to their cave. And once inside the cave, the chief robber among them said, "You are ours now, give us all your possessions." And the robber opened the bundle that Mary held in her arms, thinking this must be the family treasure. And indeed it was. But when the chief robber pulled back the blanket, saw the face of a little baby. And that little baby was smiling and looking up and cooing and making baby noises. And that very fierce robber, as fierce as Herod himself, merely laughed. He chuckled. He was immediately changed from a wicked old man to a very kind man. That robber gave Mary and Joseph and that little baby all the comforts of his cave. And the next day, he gave them their finest horses and all of the food and water they would need in order to get down to Egypt. And the next day, that wicked robber, who had become very kind, took Mary and Joseph and the baby along the way and pointed them to a safe land of Egypt. And there that baby stayed and grew up till it was about your age. until Herod had passed away. He was no longer. And they knew it would then be safe to return to their homeland. Well, that is the story of how Jesus, Mary, and Joseph managed to find some safety from the wicked armies of Herod down in Egypt. Of course, whether or not it really happened that way, I doubt if any one of us will ever find out.
We always enjoy being a part of you and your community with our special Christmas programs from Ball State University's School of Music. Join us again next week for the second in this series. Thank you.